I wonder how a magician, an actor, and politicians all are almost exactly the same freaking thing. I'll tell you. Let's get into it. A magician is really good at sleight of hand, smooth talking, trying to distract. Politicians really good. Maybe not with sleight of hand, but smooth talking, knowing how to try to get out of certain situations by using certain words. Just like an actor is really good at acting, just like a politician is good at acting or saying certain things and acting a certain way, just like a magician is good at doing certain tricks, whether it's card tricks, coin tricks, ball tricks, you name it, right? They're all applicable. They all kind of almost go into the same category. But there is a bunch of differences, but we're not going to get into that. But why would I talk about magicians, actors, and politicians? Hang in there. You'll understand. For a lot of you people that have followed me, you know that I'm speaking from experience when I'm talking about these sort of things. Right? I know these things. I'm a freelance journalist. I'm an editor. I have 4 years under my belt of doing these things, except for being a magician. Well, the only magic I can create is edit a video and do chroma key in one try. But let's say a magician, A and B, have an assistant. And say assistant decides to be hired not in the back, but work with the audience in front and center, right? Just like an actor, when they get their parts, they have to know how to say their lines, how to bring the emotion out of them, the best of them or the worst of them. It was the best of times and the worst of times. Anyway, being that said, assistant works with both magicians, or works in front of the camera or in the back where it looks like they're having a conversation and they're saying meat, potatoes, between each other, Whopper, nuggets, nuggets, Whopper. Now I'm kind of getting hungry. Thanks. They know how, even when you see them in the back saying meat, potatoes, they're still using their emotions. They're bringing out a certain part of them that they know how to do, which is acting. A politician knows how to act a certain way or say certain things that would get attention and bring attention to, say, politician or politicians, just like a magician knows how to bring attention to themselves, but not in the bad way, but in the most good way, in a form of smooth talk, sleight of hand, being rehearsed, but not too well rehearsed to where it looks scripted, but organic. Yeah, I can hear somebody banging their head right now for that one. That's just the same thing as a politician. But what does it have to do with the alleged politicians, the magician's assistant, and the actor? Now I'll get into it. Let's say the politician is like a magician. They know how to do certain things. say certain things. A magician knows how to do certain things, say certain things that can fool you until they are figured out. Just like a politician. Anybody can figure them out. You have to watch. You have to listen. You have to be observant. You have to observe movement, listening, their emotions, how they speak, how they're saying certain things. It's not all just about eyesight. It's about listening, your senses, sight and sound. Those are the two senses we are focusing on today, sight and sound. But what would this have to do with a magician's assistant? Let's say, again, going back to the magician A and B are going to do a show. Not at the same time, but at two different times. 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Right? The magician's assistant is told, you're not going to do anything in the back. You're going to be in the front today. And say magician's assistant is told what you have to do, or they are told what they have to do. They are told, while I do a magic trick, you distract the audience. So it's a form of getting away from reality, basically, technically. Do you see where I'm going with this a little? It gets you. That's how they get you every time. Because you're distracted by the captivating trick that they are trying to perform flawlessly, splendidly, without any hiccups. But let's say magician's assistant works with A and B. Magician's assistant A and B are getting a little disgruntled with each other, a little angry, a little unhappy. And then the magician's assistant kind of feels stuck, like they don't know where they're needing to go and how to feel, right? So the magician's assistant gets a little disgruntled themselves. The magician's assistant, being a little disgruntled, possibly said something about it. Now comes to the narrative. Could this happen with politicians? Could this happen with movie actors? Yes. Politicians, movie actors, magician's assistants, they can all get disgruntled. Any employee can get really disgruntled about something or anything at any time, at any given time, right? But let's say magician B had some very hefty allegations against them, that they were not really doing a trick, per se, but were being very dishonest, disingenuous with the audience. Could this happen with politicians or movie actors? Yes. Could happen again with any line of occupation. Any line of occupation. Okay? You following? So, magician's assistant gets a little disgruntled that magician B might be supposedly being a little disingenuous. And decides to say something about it. Now, why would the magician's assistant, being supposedly disgruntled, I'm going to take this off, guys, hold on, decide to say something about it? What's the angle for that one? What's the reasoning? Maybe the magician's assistant could be telling the truth. Maybe the magician's assistant is just looking for attention because they didn't feel like the magician was supposedly treating them well or giving them enough credit that they deserved. So let's say this magician's assistant decides to leave the company that they are assigned to work with magicians or actors or politicians. You guys following so far? Good. Maybe the magician's assistant, the actor or the politician, assistant or whatever you want to think of, is doing this because they themselves could possibly look for that attention, that recognition that they deserve. They're trying to be recognized. They feel like they haven't got the recognition that they honestly deserve for all their hard work and all the things that they have done and put up with during all the shows, putting up with hecklers or rowdy crowd or whatever, and this could be the same thing for actors and politicians. In a roundabout way, that magician's assistant or actor or whatever, or politician, helper or whatever you want to, whatever it is, may not be looking for attention. What if they are allegedly honest about it? That maybe it wasn't just one magician allegedly being dirty. It was both of them. Or the actors that were on set were not as nice or polite as you thought they were. The same for politicians. They weren't what we all thought they were. They maybe were a little bit supposedly dirty. And this assistant gets disgruntled because maybe they do want people to see the reality, the truth. The common denomination would be either truth or something else more deeper rooted into it. Jealousy, zealously, hateful, spiteful intent to possibly ruin a reputation in some form of way. Right? You guys still following so far? Okay. So, this assistant that has worked for these magicians may be jealous. But what if it really isn't jealousy? Again, what if it is truth? What if it does root down deeper to honesty? But what if a lot of the audience supposedly has already seen the magicians being dirty and their true form? But people that love the act, love the show, and enjoy what the magicians do, say no, it's not true. Voices count for opinions. But does those opinions mean it's fact? No. It has to be backed by truth. Now here's where we come into the sneaky part. So the assistant to the magicians would have to prove, say two magicians were dirty. But how would, say, magician's assistant or politician's assistant or the actor prove what is going on behind the scenes to be truth? Not just opinion-based or just out of jealousy, zealousy, and spitefulness. You can't leave anything to be ambiguous or subjective or objective. It has to be backed by facts. Truth. Right? So let's say the magician's assistant does prove to be right that both magicians were dirty. Whether, again, politicians, the actors, the people on set, whatever, were dirty. They were doing something they shouldn't be doing. Right? There's a lot of allegations, but the allegations have to be backed. What if it was proven to be true? But then some of the audience says, nah, that's not true, and disprove the facts that they are dirty. Allegedly. And say audience gets a little spiteful against them for doing such thing. And maybe the magicians turn around and trying to do something spiteful towards the magician's assistant because of it. Is there a possibility that it could happen? Yes. Very much so. But what if it is a narrative? What if the magician's assistant wasn't doing it for spite, but the magician's assistant thought, I could do better. I could come up with better things that are more entertaining, that are more thought-provoking. Whether, again, magician's assistant or politicians or actors or musicians or whatever. Right? How would the audience perceive that as? Mutiny, treasonous, treachery in the highest form? But what if that, say, magician's assistant or politician's assistant or actor's assistant or whatever wasn't doing it, not just because they thought they could be better and that there may or may not be truth behind it and or possibly a narrative to go with, But attention. Seeking attention. Again, going back to this. What if there is an attention method behind it? Just like politicians, just like magicians, just like actors, they all know how to do one good thing. Or one thing. Be very clever and sneaky. Maybe sometimes not with facetious, malicious intent, but because it's all part of the act. All part of what needs to be done. I'm sure by now you have caught on to where I'm going with this. So I will continue. If you have, good. If not, I will continue a little more to open your mind. Let's have an open mind about this. What if the magician's assistant does try to accuse both magicians, politicians, or the actors and the directors or whatever on film set to be not what you perceive them to be as? But people decide to rally up and be angry with, say, person that is the assistant. What can they do? Because they'll probably feel like they're alone. They'll feel like nobody's there to help them. They're all alone. And let's say magician's assistant either goes on a podcast platform, or supposedly writes a book about it to prove more, to try to show more of what is going on. Clever. Very clever. But again, could there be a narrative? Could it be deceit? Could it be jealousy, spitefulness, malicious, facetious intent within that mind of that person? We will never know until that time. The truth will come. Either truth will come out somehow, some way, of the intention of, say, person. A lot of people are mad. And they're going to direct their attention and anger to that person, say person. But not without possible potential backlash. How could, say, person allegedly avoid supposed backlash? Maybe by running to another movie guild or another political party or another magician's workers group or whatever, to keep themselves safe, protected, thinking that they may have protection in a certain position that they try to find comfort in. Who knows? Only time will tell. Time will tell where we stand. And as a country, you know, politicians do the same damn thing. They lie sometimes. They manipulate. They use tricks. But how does media and politicians align with like magicians. Manipulation. They mind bend your brain to think certain ways and certain thoughts so that you don't question it. You agree to it. See how dirty it becomes? It's a dirty little thing. That's how they win. Like mind fucking with you every day. Flawlessly. Without any hiccups. But what if there was a hiccup somewhere around the road that they hit the bump on the road, that little hiccup? Is there a way they can go past it? Sure. But they might have to go through a few things just to get past it. But they can get past it. Think about it, folks. It's easy. See you guys next time.